Hi viewers. Today we will be talking about a very important topic. At the recently held roundtable discussion, we spoke about the role of CSR in promoting the promotion of inclusivity and economic empowerment for the trans community, its challenges and opportunities. To discuss this issue very comprehensively today, I'd like to introduce us our esteemed guest, Koyel Ghosh, who is the Managing Trustee at Sappho for Equality. I'd like to inform our viewers that Koyal was also a panelist at the roundtable discussion. Hello, Koyal.
Hello.
So, to begin with, my first question is, in terms of the genesis of Sappho, what factors led for you to take up this initiative? And also, if you could talk about the gaps and challenges that you face in context to trans inclusivity.
So Kuhu, we started Sappho for Equality in 1999. This was basically a support group for queer trans individuals, six couples, six lesbian identified couples. They started this as an emotional support group. In 2003, we got registered as a charitable trust. We've been working since for almost 20 years now. If you see from 2003, there are multifarious challenges in terms of trans inclusivity in corporates or in corporate organization. The first problem, if you ask me, is the issue of acceptance, because a lot of queer trans people face discrimination, not in forms of overt forms of discrimination, but even in the selection rounds, or once they've joined a job, there are several kinds of issues that are raised in terms of differentiatory behavior, in terms of not being able to sustain the job because they are constantly misgendered in an organization, right, where the kind of transitions or surgeries that they want to undergo are often not supported in leave policies. A lot of times, the kind of clothes that trans individuals wants to wear, which is aligned to the gender identity they are comfortable in, that also gets questioned, and that becomes a big challenge. So yes, there are multiple challenges to this, and the challenges have always remained. But now, while we are trying to mainstream, bring queer trans lives into the mainstream, we have been facing this kind of discrimination, which is becoming difficult to help them sustain a livelihood opportunity.
Right. Could you elaborate upon your current initiatives and their impacts, if you have any sort of exclusive example of that that you follow through?
Right. So we've currently been able to place quite a number of trans individuals into Tata Steel. But the problem that was happening is that in West Bengal, the trans card was delayed. So a lot of people were not being able to garner their trans card, despite the fact that they did have all the necessary qualifications to be able to join a job, as well as they had identified themselves as trans men or trans women. A lot of people did not have their ID cards in place, which was also making it very, very difficult for them to be able to show as a documentation purpose, and that became a challenge. In other organizations that we've been pursuing relentlessly, in a lot of organizations we've sent across CVs, but we're still expecting some sort of response from their end in terms of recruitment, in terms of sensitization programs. There are some organizations which are okay with recruiting trans individuals so that they can check their boxes, but when it comes to sensitization workshops with them, so that it becomes an inclusive workplace, not everybody is aligned to that idea. So recently we've been working with Silicon Valley Bank, and they have actually taken it upon themselves, and they're saying that no, we will first do sensitization programs, and only after that is complete will we move on to recruitment. So I think that is a positive step that we're looking at. There are some of the individuals who have been working in right now, this airline company Indigo has been really supportive in and they've opened up the trans queer hiring in their organization. But sometimes the qualifications that are necessary for queer trans people is so high that many people are not being able to make make through to the interview. But that conversation we are in with Indigo, and we are hopeful that very soon some of the people will definitely be recruited.
Right. Just continuing upon that line of thought, even at the round table, you spoke about punitive action that corporates and the government could take against transphobic behavior. So, is there any suggestion that you might think might bring about a change, a set of rules or something that we could follow in that direction?
I'm saying about punitive action because I feel that if, until and unless there is some sort of a law in place, though the Transgender Act that is of 2019 that says that transphobic behavior in any kind of organizational level happens, which affects the minds, the mental peace of a trans person is punishable, and one can't do it, but there is no punishment or there's no rule which is very specifically categorically mentioned in this case. So what happens is, even if people are recruiting trans people, they don't feel that it's okay to, the accountability is much less. So I feel that if there is some sort of, maybe not punitive, even if it is a reformative action, so that uh, uh, some kind of justice can be meted out in case there has been some sort of a violation done on the dignity of a queer trans individual, then that will set as a precedence, which will also help other people maintain that sense of ethics and conscience while dealing with queer trans individuals. The fear that I feel, the challenge is that the more we talk about such laws, anyway, corporates are very lackadaisical and very unsure of whether they want to hire queer trans individuals. So if we focus on this too much, then I feel that the little opportunities that are coming our way might also stop. So that's a fear that we have, and we feel that, until and unless there is a mandate, that there's a CSR mandate that, okay, such percentage of people has to be in your organization for it to be a diverse workspace, uh, it will be very easy to rub off hands. So, shed people of their responsibility. So that I feel is something that can be worked on. Maybe a CSR mandate on fixing a percentage of population from the queer trans community can be a very beneficial thing. And while they're talking about this mandate of keeping this percentage of people, queer trans individuals, into their recruitment workforce, they should also focus on the fact that such people has to have, like, there has to be some restorative measures to ensure that they have a conducive workplace to work in.
Right. Right. So,
So,
as far as Sappho goes, just like to ask you about your current corporate partners and collaborators, and what mechanism do you follow when it comes to the and interventions that you expect out of them when it comes to trans inclusivity?
oh, so some of the organizations that we've been working with are like Indigo, as I said, Tata Steel, Amazon, Legrand, SVP, like Silicon Valley Bank, um, Axis Bank. These are some of the organizations that we are in conversation with regarding recruitment. And the thing that we definitely follow is that there has to be a mandatory sensitization program with the workers. That is first. If you do not have a mandatory sensitization programs with the general population, then your recruitment is not a full-fledged plan. So that is something that we focus on. We also make sure that, if somebody is asking for any form of documentation, we ask the person, the candidate, whether they're comfortable identifying as a particular identity, that there should not be any compulsion on them, and their privacy must be kept in mind. So the confidentiality of their identity, of their pronouns, or their preferred name is something the organization needs to maintain. We always have these conversations to bring to the foreground the realities of queer trans life. I think that is also, not everybody is violating another person just because they are willing to do that. It also happens because of unconscious bias that a lot of people nurture. The bias that, okay, trans individuals will not be a productive member of our workforce, or the fact that they will disrupt the regular working. So these are some of the biases that people nurture. So we try and break those myths through our myth and myth busting programs, so that the kind of bias or negative impact that people might have, or perception that people might have on queer trans individuals, can be successfully countered, and they can feel more inclusive in the truest sense of the term.
So, Koyel, can you share some of those awareness campaigns? Like, how do you conduct them? What exactly are the programs that you did?
So there are some of the programs where we talk about human libraries. So basically what happens is, us who are taking the sessions, the subject matter experts, we go to the organizations and we divide the organizations into maybe the HR part, the management part, the marketing part, the sales part, and then we have individuals, one-on-one or maybe a group workshop sensitization programs with them. All of this is pro bono. We
Hmm.
do not pay any money for the sensitization workshops that we conduct. It's absolutely free of cost. If it is in a different city than the city that we live in, maybe just the transport thing needs to be arranged from their end. Everything else we do on our own, right? And while we go there, we bring with us a lot of documents which talk about queer trans laws. We
Hmm.
bring a lot of videos, which are testimonial videos of queer trans individuals saying why they want to be productive part of the workforce. With that, we also bring in a lot of narratives, because while people act as human libraries, a lot of narratives are very important. When they see people from the queer trans community talking to them directly, saying
Hmm.
that, okay, I am a representation. For example, if I go for a sensitization program, I
Right.
talk about my experience as a non-binary queer person. What has been my experience in my workforce?
Hmm.
What has actually compelled me to leave that and get into full-time social worker, the work that I do right now.
Right.
What is it that was a challenge that I had faced in my workplace? I
Hmm.
talk about that, and a lot of people resonate with it and understand that, okay, so
Okay.
this bias is something that anybody can nurture. We talk about questions, frequently asked questions that queer trans people might face, and what are the repercussions on their mental health. So we
Right.
talk about that. We have those conversations. We have a lot of activity based workshops, so not just like somebody's giving lecture and the others are hearing, but it's a very interactive activity based workshop that really broadens the mental horizon of people who are being able to then accept diversity. Because to accept diversity, you need to understand what is the diversity, how
Exactly.
diversity diversity and inclusion is a new trope that a lot of corporates are now using. But to truly understand diverse experiences, diverse realities, diverse lived experiences is extremely important. It's crucial, it's paramount. So that is something that we focus on, without blaming or without trying to put some organization down, because these efforts are important. If these efforts do not happen, recruitments will not happen. If
Right.
recruitments do not happen, economic depravity of the queer trans community will continue,
Hmm.
and that is not the solution. So we get into those, and then we work as a mediator, as a bridge between the recruiters and the candidates. So giving them the necessary soft skill training, giving them the necessary skill building training in terms of maybe digital marketing, UX UI design, photo editing, photo video editing,
Hmm.
and so many of them actually, spoken English, computer skills, skills that you require to be able to do your job well.
Hmm.
Those skills, training them, giving them mock interviews so that they're prepared, they're not nervous when an interview panel sits in front of them. So that support also we help the queer trans community garner, and that really helps in the follow-up process. So if there is any kind of trouble that they're going through, so the
Hmm.
management directly calls us saying that, okay, listen, I think this is a problem that is happening. Can you look into this, or can you talk to the client, to the candidate, and tell them that this is the rule of the organization. And so we've already given 20 people for hiring in Amazon. Amazon is still looking for more people from Kolkata, and we're very happy because they come to us, they ask us the questions instead of being insensitive towards the candidate. They
Right.
ask us their queries, so that really helps. Yeah.
That's really good that Amazon is actually, it has that perspective where it is trying to include everybody irrespective of gender. But there might be some organizations or people who might not be able to understand this diversity. So did you at any point of time face any sort of challenge in terms of acceptance and response by some members of the organization that you were in touch with?
Some of the organizations, yes, we've sent in proposals. We've never I can send you uh 15, 20 mails that we have sent to different organizations, but we've never got a response from them. There's absolute silence, there's absolute non-response. There are a lot of organizations who take our proposal, and then when we follow up asking them that, what is the situation, are you looking at hiring, are you looking at sensitization, they say that, this does not fall within the within this year's plan. So maybe next year
Oh.
we'll come back to you, next year we'll get in touch with you. There was this one organization of RP Goenka. I'm not going to name the organization. I just said RP Goenka, but it was led by the RP Goenka group. And the day of the sensitization, the program was an online event, and we got no response from the team. We kept calling, we kept messaging, we kept asking what happened, why is the sensitization not happening? But there
Mm.
was absolutely no response. And we were so heartbroken because we really prepared ourselves, and we were really like, we wanted to do a physical workshop because online workshops often don't work. But they were insistent on online workshops, and we were all ready with our thing, but it never happened. So, these are very big challenges. While corporates feel that they don't even have that age, they don't even owe us an explanation as to why a particular workshop or a particular sensitization drive or a
Mm.
recruitment drive will not happen. There is no response when it's absolute silence.
Mm.
That is when it gets really defeating, and it gets really disillusioning, and we feel very disillusioned by it. But I also understand that, at this juncture, we will continue to thrive and look for organizations who are not like this, who are going to at least give us a response to our need, like our requirements. Yeah.
So, Koyal, are you looking at one more question from my end? So, Koyal, are you looking at particular geographies that you want to work with?
Right now, we have to work in West Bengal
Yeah.
because that is the ambit of where we work, West Bengal, Kolkata. But we are also okay with working in the Northeast. So
Mm.
maybe Assam, Guwahati, Manipur, Naga, all of those areas can also be included within our ambit. It's easier if it is in West Bengal, Jharkhand, Bihar, Jamshedpur. These areas are still okay. We will be able to uh, go there and do whatever is required. So, yeah.
Okay, so I asked this question specifically because I believe I could be wrong, but I think people from West Bengal and Northeast are far more sensitive and aware to gender diversity and inclusivity. And because I am from Uttar Pradesh and I have seen people, not just organizations, I'm talking about families who are not very supportive, and they
Hmm.
don't give the right kind of care and support to a person in their own family. uh,
Hmm.
in context to that, again, I want to know, it is a very generic question, has nothing to do with corporates or NGOs here, but family being one of the most important institutions of everyone's life, how
Hmm.
important is it for a family to support this cause and actually fight for that person with the society?
It's the same in West Bengal and the adjoining areas. We have a shelter home. We have a small temporary residence that we call it, where 10 people are right now staying because they've been thrown out of their natal homes. And insurmountable amount of violence has happened on them in terms of their documents being snatched away, in terms of them being forced to marry a cis heterosexual man
Mm.
without their consent. Things like child marriage, is something which is very rampant in West Bengal. We've seen so many individuals have come to us, said that, I've always known that I'm trans, but I was made to marry off even before I was a consenting age. There's somebody who is 21 years old and has a child of 5 years. So you can imagine how early they must have been married, and this person identifies as a trans masculine individuals. They were beaten up every day, physically assaulted by the family members, like not just the husband but also the other family members. So, we have people who faced extreme amount of physical violence from the partner's family also. So we know somebody who was basically from Murshidabad, and they are BD makers, small cigarette BD makers. They are daily workers basically, and this person, their entire upper thigh was burnt with steel rod, iron steel rod, so that they can never go back to expressing their gender that they were expressing it in. And the perpetrators have been arrested, but this person is with us because they don't feel safe in the environment that they were living in. But so the violence by the natal family, because there's a lot of honor killings also, that honor killings, somebody is put into a rehabilitation center without the consent of that person, so that they can be converted into a cis heterosexual mindset. So things like this is also happening in the community, and hate crimes are rampant. And in West Bengal also, we get almost everyday calls of hate crimes being perpetrated on queer trans individuals just because of their gender identity and their sexual orientation. So yeah.
That's really trenching and heartbreaking to even, I can't even imagine the pain. Yes, Kuhu, please continue with your
Yeah,
questions.
I just wanted to actually ask, so there was no action that was taken by the police or the government against these perpetrators, like no case was
They
registered.
were,
They were
yeah,
arrested.
they were attempted murder case was charged on them. It was a non-bailable offense. We've been following up with that case. Three people had been arrested in this particular case that I was referring to, but all three of them are on bail. Mandatory, there's some sort of an interim bail that they have received, and they are out on the loose. The case is still running in the court, but until and unless these people are on bail, the risk on this person, on this trans man, still lurks very large. So, uh, you know, the problem is that the loopholes in our law system is such that it is so much easier to be able to get out of a situation if you have the money, right? If you can get the bail amount, you can easily get bail for anything, though it was a non-bailable offense. But we've heard recently that this, and we also, because we stay in the mainstream city, like in Kolkata, and this thing has happened 253 kilometers away from the main city. So even going there, staying there incurs a lot of cost, which we're not being able to bear at this point. We're a small organization. So what we're doing is we're keeping a follow-up with the police, but not always does the police answer our questions or tell us what is happening, or when the people will be put behind bars and things like that. So we thought that it is best that we bring the person here and keep them with us, so
Mm.
that they're safe for the time being. Yes.
So I think it all boils down to sensitization of the issue, especially when it comes to, so India's a major chunk of India's population consists of young people, and
Mhm.
like we spoke about this on the roundtable discussion as well. Young people are more accepting of gender diversity than older people. So do you think that sensitization at the school level or at the family level and is important, and how we could go about it as to making this awareness come in the youth of our country?
Right, you're right. It's easier with the young generation to have those conversations with them, and to be able to explain to them why diversity in terms of queer people is important. But what happens is, young change makers of today, to reach out to them, we need platforms like yours to be able to reach out and say that, okay, this is the challenge that we're facing, these are the troubles that we're going through. What can you do, how can you help? So the movement needs to be mainstream, a mainstream movement. It can't be a movement in the margins. That is not going to bring about the change. So that is the intention. So we have a social media page now, we have an Instagram account, It's called Sappho.for.equality, and it's followed by 3,359 people right now. So and we have a lot of following on Facebook also. So we are hoping that through social media, we can reach out to the younger population. We do have a LinkedIn profile also, which we try to connect with corporates, but that has really not worked in our favor because it's very difficult to find corporates who are willing to be, hire or willing to do sensitization programs. And so yeah, that is a challenge that we've been facing.
So, Koyal, do you think the mass media or cinematic media could be like a platform to propel this awareness? Because we have seen a certain amount of gender diverse portrayals of actors in Bollywood, although they haven't been up to the mark. Of course, they certainly carry the bias that we have within us. But do you think that could be used in a certain way to create awareness, especially amongst the masses who watch?
See, the queer trans representation has always been in terms of a sidekick or somebody who is a negative role, or maybe a comic relief character. Unfortunately, the representation of queer people in mass media is still very stereotyped. There are some representations, I agree, where the new films are being made, where we see mainstream actors playing trans roles or queer roles, but there also, why can't a trans woman play a trans woman's role? Why does a cis person have to do that? We also see that in a lot of cases, the realities of queer trans people is appropriated by the mainstream cis society, and they tweak it as per to sensationalize it. A queer trans person is always looked at as a sad person, but our lives are not just sad. Our lives have so much to it. There are so many emotions to it. There's so many achievements that we are achieving every day, but conversations regarding that does not happen, right? And representation is queer representation is mostly very tokenistic in Indian context. If you look at any international films today, a trans character will definitely be played by a trans person. That's the kind of respect, that's the kind of dignity that we're looking for. But unfortunately, in India, that doesn't happen. So representation is important, representative films are important, but they need to be told by a trans person,
Yeah.
written by a trans person, spoken, acted,
Hmm.
directed, done by a trans queer person, so that their realities do not remain diluted into other causes.
Hmm.
Their realities are there on the foreground, to be spoken about, to be looked at, to be listened to be empathetically viewed. Today, if you want a film with Shah Rukh Khan, you will not have somebody else playing his role. You would want Shah Rukh Khan to do the role, right? So for queer trans people also, if you want to play the character of a gay person, or a lesbian woman, or a trans person, let trans person pay it. Why do you have to appropriate even that little space that queer trans individuals have? So that's a question that we've often thought of.
So on those lines, I think there should be representation in the CSR committees of corporates also.
Absolutely.
Yes, of course, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel in the CSR committees, if there are CSR committees that are there, there should definitely be representation from the queer trans community. There should definitely be one, two, three people who would actually stand the ground and say that, okay, let us maybe downscale our requirements, list a little, because a queer trans individual might not have a master's degree,
Right.
because they've not been able to complete a college education because of discrimination that they've faced in college. Maybe recruit them, absorb them, and let them do it in distance from giving them those opportunities to be able to negotiate the queer trans realities is very different. To get education for a queer trans individuals is very different from how it is for a cis person. To be able to not go to a girls' school or a girls' college because you're not comfortable wearing salwar kameez or sari is
Hmm.
a challenge that a lot of queer trans individuals have faced. That is a reality that a lot of queer trans individuals have faced, where they've dropped out, where they've left. I know somebody who had come the other day. This person was in second year of college, and they faced such hostility and bullying in college that they left. They were a topper in their class, but they left because they couldn't take it anymore. Their education remained incomplete. They are not even a graduate now.
That's
What do you think will the job, what kind of job do you think this person will get? If they, because nobody is going to hear how you were discriminated in your educational institution, why you couldn't complete. People will look for your degree. If you don't have it, you will not get the jobs that you have all rights to get, right? So these are also some realities which I think a queer representation or a trans representation can talk about in such committees, and can really like bring about some holistic change.
so Koyal. One more question from Nicole. So my question is that in terms of policy recommendation, for the laws in the country, like you said that there should be inclusivity being taught at, like who also said, at institutions like schools and all. So shouldn't there be something more concrete in terms of policies where there is a subject of gender inclusivity and diversity in schools and colleges?
I think mandatorily sensitization on queer trans realities should be taught in schools and colleges. Maybe not have a paper, maybe in B.Ed papers, where teachers are being trained.
True.
Teachers often become site of violences for queer trans individuals. So maybe if teachers training program in the B.Ed program that we have, the Bachelor's of Education, there is a chapter on gender, but that only talks about cisgender people. So maybe broadening that curriculum in the medical board, in the medical curriculum. If you see, there's just one chapter on diverse gender experiences, and that is also very very it's very old school. That needs to be revived. The
Mm,
legal fact book needs to be revived. The legal books, the law students should be able to know what are the laws of queer trans individuals. Maybe all of these changes need to happen to be able to curriculum based changes, sensitization in schools and colleges, advocacy programs in colleges, mandatory ERG groups in colleges, support groups
mm,
where queer trans individual can find support. There could be if there is ragging or bullying happening in schools and colleges, there should be proper action taken against the perpetrators,
mm.
in terms of giving them reprimanding them for their actions. And
Right.
maybe then, only then will people be able to do things the way everybody else is getting
Absolutely.
opportunities, so.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yes, cool.
I just wanted to ask my last question, which is in terms of reservation that we have in the government sector and within schools. Do you think the reservation or the quotas for the gender diverse people should be increased, or something of
Yes.
that thing could be worked out?
We should focus on horizontal reservation. That is the focus that should be talked about in terms of queer people and trans people who do not even have their identity cards, because not everybody is okay in having their identity cards done. So that is one mandatory thing that needs to be looked at right now. So I feel yes, there has to be extreme amount of focus given in terms of reservations. And if we talk about reservation, we should definitely talk about horizontal reservations.
Right. So thank you so much, Koyal. Today we learned a lot about the trans community, the current situation of the trans community, and what are the gaps that they face, as well as future opportunities, and how we can create them to make the world a better place for them. So we are very honored again to have you with us, and thank you so much for your input, Koyal. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.